UFC Fight Night Vegas 63, Kattar versus Allen just took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, and my overall event recap as well, starting with the early prelim opener of Christian Rodriguez versus Joshua Weems. Joshua Weems was doing good. He had some moments. He was finding his way on top with a grappling, and he was doing some good job there with some strikes, but eventually Christian Rodriguez latched up a Dash choke out of nowhere and put him to sleep in the first round. So very good performance by Christian Rodriguez, and he is laughing all the way to the bank as well, because I believe he actually got a performance bonus in his UFC debut, because there weren't really any like fight of the night performances tonight, and a couple of the top fights up the card didn't really deliver. So good for him, you know. Made a quick 50k bonus in his debut on top of the 12 for 12 and the Venom bonus. So he probably made something like, what, 70 grand, like probably 80 grand, somewhere just under 80 grand or something like that. So good for him. Really good performance, and looking forward to seeing what he can do in the future. Moving on to another fight on the card, which was Cody Durden versus Carlos Mota. I picked Cody Durden as an underdog, and he won as the underdog. I said he would win this one by decision, 29-28. And that was the scorecard, I believe. Maybe they could have given a 30-27, I don't know. But Cody Durden just out-hustled him pretty much every single round. Worked the grappling. He's a very underrated grappler. I've been saying this about Cody Durden. I truly believe people were like picking against him, and the odds were the way. I think people just don't like him, and they're like justifying him being bad at fighting because of that, which is just absolutely crazy to me, because Durden's pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, he can grapple, and he can grapple well. And he hustled his way to a win. Total strikes, bunch of control time. Got the takedowns and just didn't let Mota back up to his feet. So, good job from Cody Durden. He gets the job done. And it wasn't the best of fights, though. Pretty snoozy. But he did what he needed to do to win against a dangerous, explosive guy in Carlos Mota, which is to get the takedown early and make stuff happen on the ground. Or make a little bit happen on the ground, I guess. A very little bit. Moving on. Chase Hooper versus Steve Garcia. Dear Lord. I'm so sorry for picking Chase Hooper. I didn't think Steve Garcia was that good. And to be honest, he probably isn't that good. But Chase Hooper, if you're getting lit up on the feet like that, you need to start shooting some takedowns. You need to not wait until you're semi-concussed and nearly out cold to even begin to shoot some takedowns. And he had some moments where he would spin and land a spinning elbow that I think hit the nose of Garcia and gave him a nosebleed and stuff like that. But he got beaten up so badly in this fight, dropped 3 times, hurt over and over and over again. And Steve Garcia would just not go into his guard, make him stand back up, and Hooper would never shoot a takedown. He just kept trying to trade on the feet. And he's not you do not have hands. I don't know how many times we have to say this. You can't strike at all. You string bean wimp. You need to grapple and work out how to get people to the ground. Because stop trying to strike with people. He trained with Wonderboy for a couple of months, and now he thinks he's going to go out there and Wonderboy people. Get it to the ground, because you ain't it on the feet. And Garcia lit him up bad and put him away. So good job to Steve Garcia. Moving on to another fight that took place on the card, which was Joseph Holmes versus Park Jun-Yong. I picked Park Jun-Yong to win. I can't remember how I said he would win, but I think I said late rounds submission or TKO after Joseph Holmes gassed out. Maybe I said decision based on the later rounds, but that's how this fight kind of went. You know, he got the grappling going, and Joseph Holmes just started to slow down as the fight went on, and couldn't really defend the same way he could in the first round. The first round was pretty close. I gave it to Park Jun-Yong in the first round, to be honest with you. Maybe I'm wrong to do that, but I don't know. Maybe the first round can go to Joseph Holmes. I don't know. Either way round. We'll get to some of the judging on this card in a bit. Who knows what the judges would have given that first round. But in the second round, Jun-Yong Park, I guess he realized in the first that if he's a bit more patient on top, he can dominate Joseph Holmes if he doesn't go for anything too crazy and give up position. So in the second round, he got the back position after a takedown, kicked out the legs of Joe Holmes, dragged him down, sat back to his own back, and took the back of Joseph Holmes very skillfully. Ended up in top position after that, used the back control to find his way into like a back mount position, and just kept blasting Joseph Holmes with shots until he opened up the rear naked choke. Joseph Holmes gets subbed in round 2. Good job, Jun-Yong Park. Great performance from him. Moving on to another card, a move, and get Park Yun-Yong on the Korea card as well, because we don't have many Koreans in the UFC, so the fact that he won so easily, get him on that Korean card for sure. Moving on to another fight up the card, which is Andrei Arlovski versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I said Andrei Arlovski would lose in the first round by KO. I thought Marcos was going to tag him and KO him badly because there's such a boxing difference between them. I've watched this KO back so many times, and I'm going to make a second channel video about it. What KO'd Arlovski? He didn't get KO'd. He got hurt to the ground, and then Marcos eventually got to a submission position and TKO'd him there. And submitted him there with a rear naked choke. What dropped Arlovski in that fight? I've watched it so many times. None of the punches landed from Marcos. He didn't get a head clashed, which I thought it originally was, because I was like, none of those shots landed. They must have clashed heads, and Arlovski got the worst of it because he's Arlovski. But I don't know how he went and sort of went out cold in the air. Nothing hit him. He got hit on the shoulder, on the back, and then on the chest. And even before that last punch landed, that maybe clipped the chin barely with the thumb that actually landed on the chest at the end. He was already out on his feet, off of his feet, looking like he's out cold. Crazy to see. Someone explain. I'm gonna have to make a second channel video of what KO'd Arlovski, because it looked like a phantom punch. I didn't know what happened. But De Lima won the way I said he would, but he got the submission eventually, and I said he would just TKO him after knocking him down on the feet. But good job, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. He gets it done. Moving on. Phil Hawes versus Roman Dolidze. Oh my God. Roman Dolidze had a great performance. He is massively improving. I got to give it to him. I picked Phil Hawes to win. I think a lot of people picked Phil Hawes to win. And, I watched the Laureano Strapoli fight last year, and I thought, not that great. Not that great at all. The Trevin Giles fight that he lost, is an argument he could have won, but not that great of a performance again. And then he beat Dorcas with a big knee, and I was like, okay, he landed big, but let's see how he does against Phil Hawes. I didn't think he was going to do well, but man, his jiu-jitsu's underrated. It really is. He got taken down in the first round. Both guys were landing shots on the feet. Phil Hawes was kind of getting the better of the stand-up early on, I thought. Landing some of the better punches and stuff like that. And eventually, Phil Hawes gets a takedown after catching a kick of Roman Dolidze. And Roman Dolidze starts tearing him up on bottom with elbows immediately. Phil Hawes was not urgent enough on the ground whatsoever. And he was in full guard on Dolidze, and Dolidze locked up full guard and started smashing him with elbows on the bottom, like Mendes McGregor style, but with no ground and pound from Hawes. And Dolidze was slicing him open with elbows. Didn't really cut him, I don't think, but he was landing big elbows on him on bottom and good punches as well. I thought he actually KO'd him at 1 second with elbows, I believe. Or was that another fight further up the card? No, I think he did KO him with elbows, maybe. I'm pretty sure he did. But I thought he almost did at one point. That's how good they were. But then he went for a leg, and he got the leg, and he twisted it up in such an uncomfortable position. And what Phil Hawes should have done was go with the twist of Roman Dolidze, end up facing the other way on all fours, and just sort of crawl out and just sort of evacuate the ground and drag his leg out of that position. But what he did instead is he tried to even though his leg was in danger, he tried to maintain back position and make sure that he ended up on top. And by trying to sit up like that and keep himself on the back of Dolidze if he didn't get the leg, he just made it worse for himself. He should have bailed entirely on that position. So he didn't. He paid for it. Leg got completely destroyed. Arguably could have been called off, but he tried to fight on. So the referee was confused about what he should have done. And then Dolidze, for a second, I was like, hang on, finish him off, dude. Hawes was still okay on the feet, trying to do his thing, but his leg was destroyed. And Dolidze tracked him down and delivered one of the most brutal punching KOs I've seen. The way he laid him out. There's a picture on the UFC Instagram. If you go across on the slides of the finish and stuff like that, dude, he actually violated him. His face on the ground after he gets KO'd is disgusting, in all honesty. So credit to Roman Dolidze. Amazing performance. He gets it done by TKO in the first. Proves me wrong. Moving on to the main card. And here's where the card gets really interesting. Dustin Jacoby versus Khalil Rountree. Dustin Jacoby beat Khalil Rountree. He just did. Like, I gave him the third. I know a lot of people didn't give him the third. I gave him the third round, and I know a lot of people saw him wobble backwards. It was from a head clash. And people, I guess, think that was from a punch, and I guess the commentary made a bunch of noise, and that's what got the attention of people and stuff like that. But that was from a head clash. They clashed heads. And I know that, listen, Khalil was in the fight, and he was landing good shots. But I just literally saw that fight the whole time. I thought it was a 30-27. And I saw that fight as Jacoby schooling him on the feet here. He's actually making him look quite amateur on the feet. Khalil was over-swinging shots, missing a bunch of them. Jacoby pop, slip, pop, leg kick, move. He was just making him look silly on the feet, especially in the first 2 rounds. Round 2 was pretty close, though. Khalil started to do okay towards the end of it. But in the first, he was getting pieced up so badly, I gave that round to Jacoby as well. But round 1 is Jacoby. Close, but Jacoby. Round 2, close, but Jacoby. Round 3, I guess because of the damage on the face of Jacoby, you can try and score it to Rountree, but the damage arguably was caused by a head clash. And Jacoby scored him there, 47-30 on strikes. This was one of the worst decisions of all time. And I'm sick of seeing the comment now that's now going to be everywhere since O'Malley got the win over Yan. Of close fights aren't robberies. Yes, they are. It can be as close as it gets, and there's still going to be a clear winner. Stop this nonsense that we're seeing nowadays. Close fights can't be robberies. Yes, they can. One of the worst I've seen of all time. Honestly. One of the worst I've seen of all time. That Khalil Rountree Jacoby fight. I'm going to watch it again. That was genuinely one of the worst robberies of all time. Fact. There's an argument for Jacoby every round clear. Moving on to another fight on the card, which was Tresean Gore versus Josh Fremd. I picked Fremd to win. I thought he'd be too much on the feet and on the ground. And he was doing good. To be fair, he was doing really good in the fight. And it was actually Tresean Gore that was shooting the takedowns early on. And he kind of got the back of Fremd, but didn't really do anything with it. And Fremd found his way out of it and started piecing him up on the feet in that round. And just winning on the feet in general against Tresean Gore. And at the start of the second round, Josh Fremd was piecing him up in the second round. Really, really badly. Landing some good shots, getting reactions out of Gore, covering up against a cage and stuff like that. But then he shot a takedown for stupid reasons. He was winning on the feet. But I guess he wanted to try and get it to the ground and work from there. And put himself in a guillotine. And it was one of the most vicious guillotines I've ever seen in my life. You know what I mean? Almost like a chiropractor. Tresean Gore wrenched that man's neck out of place. I don't know if you've seen the guy on YouTube that does chiropractor, but he gave that guy the ring dinger. You know what I'm saying? If you've seen those videos on YouTube of that chiropractor guy, the white guy, the old white guy, he gave him the ring dinger around the neck. You know what I'm saying? Wrenched that out of place badly. And he was out for a while before the referee stepped in, but didn't fight the hands. He tried to kick off the cage, but he ended up twisting himself in a worse position. It was kind of like if you guys, I'm going to show my MMA expertise here because I can think of the image in my head. It would be if Holloway finished one of his guillotines against Ricardo Lamas. If you guys remember those guillotines that he had on Lamas. He didn't get them. Lamas fought out of them. But if Holloway finished those guillotines, it was a similar one to that, but Fremd tried to adjust and ended up in an even worse position, which is why it got finished. But great stuff from Tresean Gore. He finally gets a win. Good for him. Looked terrible on the feet, though. I thought I was on the way to a good prediction. Moving on. Waldo Cortez-Acosta versus Jared Vanderaa. Dude, Jared Vanderaa should have won this, I think. He should have won this. And I know the strike numbers are going to be interesting and stuff like that, and they can maybe give more to Waldo Cortez-Acosta. I gave him the first round. I thought he could get the first round. But for 30-27 unanimous decision, dude, Jared Vanderaa should have won that. He was destroying his legs. And I know that Jacoby landed good leg kicks on Khalil and stuff like that, but this was you could clearly tell he's actually ruining this guy's legs in the fight. And I know that Jared was getting hit by punches and stuff like that, and they didn't really seem to rock him too often, especially after the first round. And he would also land some decent punches back and stuff like that. But those leg kicks in the last 2 rounds of the fight were by far the most effective strikes in that fight. And I think this fight should have gone to Jared Vanderaa 29-28 based on the last 2 rounds. The leg kicks were adding up. He literally had a dead leg. Couldn't do anything, was trying to sort of limp his way towards Vanderaa. I guess he threw enough to try and win, but I think that the most effective strike, like if he wobbled Vanderaa badly at one moment, maybe it's a different story, but the most effective strike of that fight was the leg kick of Vanderaa, and he chewed up the legs in round 2 and 3. I thought they should have given him the fight over the jabs of Waldo Cortes-Acosta that Vanderaa seemed to be ignoring for the most part. Moving on. Crazy, though, the judges on this card. Moving on, speaking of judges on this card. Tim Means versus Max Griffin. I have a different opinion than most on this. I don't necessarily agree. I disagree with the confusion of the judges. Max Griffin won round 1 clearly. 10-9 in terms of scoring. I'm telling you this right now. Tim Means 100% won round 3. I don't care what anyone says. He out-hustled Max Griffin. Won on total strikes, not significant strikes, which were 47-42 for Tim Means. Total strikes, 143-56. Griffin broke his hand in round 3. Means outstruck him early in round 3. Griffin got a takedown, but the entire time he was on top, Means was punching him in the face. This is a Carlos Condit, Matt Brown scoring system. You've got to give it to the guy hustling for damage. You know what I mean? I know people are going to say, oh, you don't want to count the control time, but you did in the Jan O'Malley fight. That was because the striking was so close that then you have to think about control time. That's what I was thinking in the Jan O'Malley fight. But with this one, it was like the striking Means was ahead in round 2 and 3, but Griffin landed a right hand in round 2 that kind of made Means like get rocked into a takedown. So that round can go either way. If you don't see that punch rocked Means watching it live, that made him go for that takedown, you can give that round to Tim Means. If you do see it, which you're correct to see, you can give that round to Griffin. But still a close competitive round. And that was all depending on how wary the judges were over that punch that landed that made Tim's go for the grappling exchange. Because he was doing good other than that in that fight, in that round. Round 3, 100% won round 3. He completely out-hustled Griffin. Griffin did nothing on top. And O'Malley wasn't like punching a bunch of times Jan when he was on bottom over and over again, slicing him up with elbows. Means was constantly punching him. He got takedowns of his own at the end, big slam at the end, punches to the body, to the head, stuff like that. He was on bottom, like as he got up against the cage, he'd dig in like 5 punches to the face and stuff like that. So I definitely gave Means round 3. Round 2 was close, but because of that one punch that Griffin landed, that made Means going for that takedown, I gave that to him. And then round 1, Griffin again, but very close. Moving on, up the card, Calvin Kattar versus Arnold Allen. Sadness. I'm sick of it. You know what I mean? We get women's main events, they go 5 rounds. We have to watch it for 5 rounds, 25 minutes. We get a great men's main event, Kattar Allen, Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega, Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blades. Something happens, and the Ortega-Yair one's a bit different. But this one's just nonsense at this point. I'll go through, and I'm so annoyed by this, man. Is it me, or is it only in main events? We go through the last few cards that there have been. Durden versus Jan card. None of this anywhere on the card. You can go to any point in the card. You can have 50-year-olds like Latifi and Olenek fighting. None of these injuries happen on the card. Grasso Araujo card. None of this nonsense happens at any point on the card, early prelims or anything. Let Mike Jackson blow out his knee. You know what I mean? Why is it the main event? Why is it always the main event? Is it the nerves that's making him take these weird steps? Crazy UFC 280, none of this nonsense. Let Oliveira blow his knee out so we can claim that he's still the champ somehow and cope with the fact that he lost. Like, why is it only happening when you really want to get a great scrap out of 2 guys in the main event? Kattar and Allen. To be fair to Arnold Allen, he was whooping up Kattar, but to be fair to my prediction, I knew he would. I knew he would win the first round dominantly, win the second round closely, and then Kattar would start taking over in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That's what I wanted to see from Allen, because I said he would break his hand in the early rounds of this fight. And he said in the post-fight speech, I've hurt my hand again. Yeah, you know, hurt my hand, didn't I, you know? Yeah, well, you know, hurt my hand again, you know? And he didn't want to call anyone out or anything like that. But he hurt his hand again. And I was thinking, dude, if he hurts his hand early in this fight, Kattar's going to whoop him in the later rounds if it starts getting scrappy and tired. He's going to get whooped by Kattar in the later rounds. And little did I know, Kattar was going to throw the weirdest flying knee I've ever seen in my entire life, to be fair. And it was Allen that moved out the way of it to make it look so weird. But he threw a bad flying knee because at the end of the first round, he was getting lit up by Arnold Allen in the first round, 27-14 on strikes. Allen was chopping at the legs. Not too great at that. Landed a few of them, but he was ripping up Calvin against a cage at one point with like a crazy combo. By the way, fastest hands at featherweight. I'm calling it right now. He's got faster hands than Volk. Faster hands than Kattar, Emmett, Yair. Maybe not Yair. Yair's weirdly quick in other ways. But in terms of combination punches, Allen has the fastest hands. I don't understand how fast his hands are. They're actually crazy in terms of how fast they are. So fast, he breaks him every time he lands it on someone. So Arnold Allen looked good in round one. Was landing a bunch of straight right hands at the end of round one as well. They were weirdly fast, and even Kattar was like, what the hell is hitting me right now? I'm getting tagged up. And, yeah. And in round two, or round one, at the end of round one, Kattar's trying to get the round back for himself, tries a big flying knee, and then just lands so weirdly in like a weird like ballerina pose, almost, and then blows out his leg, rolls on the ground. Allen nearly latches up like a dart. He went for like an arming guillotine and tried to like change it to a Darce choke, and tried to submit him that way. I'm surprised there's not a submission of attempt on the stat page here. But then round two, Allen went straight to what he should have done, really. And you can't blame him. I was worried about how the fight was going to end up going. But Allen did exactly what he should have done. Just chopped at the leg. Kattar can't balance on one leg because his leg's destroyed. As soon as Allen kicked that lead leg and took it off the ground, his other leg just completely erupted underneath him because it couldn't take the weight. So, yeah, Arnold Allen wins. To be fair, he was looking good. But it's tough because we don't get the answers about his cardio and his toughness into the later rounds that you do want to see if you're going up against the Holloways and the Yairs of the division, you know what I mean, that can push that pace in the later rounds. He said he wants an interim belt. If he's hurt his hand, they're going to do Emmett versus Yair for an interim belt. Like, if they don't have Aljo and Cejudo on that Australia card, they're probably going to try and get Emmett versus Yair as the interim title fight on that card in the featherweight division, if Allen's injured and can't fight till then. But if he isn't, then maybe you can do Holloway. Something like that, so we'll see. If he isn't injured, though, he should look for Emmett or Yair, and they'll have to fight each other. Otherwise, one of them's going to fight him, and the other one's going to get forgotten about. So, yeah, 10 in a row for Allen, though. Good win. You can't blame him. He was looking good. I just wanted some more answers. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Weird card. Very weird card. Oh, well.